This movie, a horror and terrifying movie that takes place in one night. And why is it one of the best horror movies for me? And do I advise you to watch it? Complete the video to the end to know.
This isn't a vacation, it's a quarantine.
We're the only people around.
I thought you were spending quarantine alone.
What are you doing here?
I wanted to see you.
What's the story? In Sick, it's April 2020 and Parker and Miri are two college students who go to a lake house owned by Parker's parents to ride out the quarantine. While its isolation and tranquility seem to make it the perfect place, their peace is soon shattered by a knife-wielding man dressed like a ninja. Soon, Parker and Miri are in a struggle for their lives, desperate to survive and to understand why this person is so determined to kill them. The answer is more than they'd bargained for, as Parker and Miri must make it through the night without being cut to pieces. Before we go deeper into the movie review, I hope with all my heart that you will support us in your subscription to the channel and to click like for the video. We download about 4 videos a week, but we don't get any support, so I hope with all my heart that we will get your support. We have a brand new horror film called Sick that just debuted on Peacock that was scripted by Scream fame's Kevin Williamson. Given that the pandemic horrors were added on top of this and that it was released immediately on streaming, there are unmistakable parts of Scream thrown in. Does it merit a viewing? Parker and her best friend, or so they think, decide to undergo quarantine at the family lake house alone owing to the pandemic. As a result, the story takes place in April 2020, just as lockdowns and quarantines were getting started. At this point, I wasn't sure if I wanted to watch yet another pandemic-themed horror film that employs few sets and performers and then only serves to remind us of the dreadful production that was 2020. But the story begins with a thrilling and even eerie scenario that is strikingly similar to the opening of Scream. Although there isn't much explanation for why the events are taking place, the movie opens with a gruesome scene that sets the tone for what is to come. Sick. It was written by Kevin Williamson. If you don't know who he is, he wrote Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, The Faculty, and many other iconic slasher movies from the late 1990s. These were the movies that first introduced me to horror movies when I was in high school, and he will soon release a new one called The Faculty, a COVID slasher. Was the movie any good? How does that work exactly? Let's discuss it. So basically, if you're not familiar with Kevin Williamson's work, what makes it intriguing is that he's known for having sort of meta-commentary. The Scream flicks were a reflection on terror with the films he makes. They were aware that they were in a horror movie, so it was in a way extremely self-conscious and added a certain level of humor to both that in the movie Sick. Parker and Miri, two college pals, will be quarantined at Parker's father's getaway property. The girls are at the house, so it's the ideal location for a horror movie because it's remote, on a lake, and out in the mountains. We can make out some unsettling pictures in the backdrops and shadows, but it's first unclear whether what we can make out is merely shadows or something more. And while there are some jump scares scattered throughout the film, most of the time they are highly situational and arise from the tension rather than being cheap and silly scares. Where the music builds and something appears out of nowhere, most of what we see in this movie happens in the course of one night. Consequently, the plot is made much more suspenseful and horrifying by the compacted timescale. Its pace, and if this gets going well, it might occasionally pause for brief breathers. The constant stress keeps us on our toes the entire time. Is it any good? This is a good horror film with a surprising twist. The movie Sick, which is set in April 2020, transports us back to the bad old days of quarantine, cleaning up freshly bought groceries, scrounging for toilet paper, social isolation, etc. The connection and the major reveal demonstrate that the quarantine is much more than just the impetus to get our heroes into the aforementioned cabin in the woods. There is a lot more to this horror film's second half and third act than just gore and serial murdering, though there is still plenty of both. The rewards are satisfying and, to some extent, unsettling because of the extremes to which the murderer's mad sense of justice has driven them. This is what prevents it from being just another tired horror film about urbanites visiting a rural home and getting attacked by the killer or killers. It belongs to the growing COVID Life 2020 movie genre and is one of the better films currently available. Is it any weak? I thought the movie needed more covet, but I also thought the plot needed to be more connected. Kind of planned. The first 15 or 20 minutes are very coveted heavy, with shoppers discussing their quarantine plans in the grocery stores. Afterward, the final 20 minutes get really covetous once more as it ties back into the motive. What's kind of happening? The twists and turns in revelations and other such things. And then there are around 40 minutes in the middle that could have been in any slasher movie. Nothing about these 40 minutes is covetous. It's just folks in a remote area attempting to avoid being slain by a killer, simply nothing. It is a film that is fully based on the highly sought-after hook of Kevin Williamson Cove and slasher. The only genre in the middle is slasher, and it's a fantastic one. It's well choreographed and well done. The tension ride has just the right amount of change-ups to keep things interesting. Although it doesn't dwell on any particular theme for too long, it is more or less basic slasher fare due to the fact that everyone is isolated and estranged from one another. It's a little disappointing that so few people have died because one would expect a few more to be left for dead. This one involves a lot more running and chasing than it does seeing all your favorite dead folks. Therefore, to me, it's a movie that I enjoyed. It was good, creative, and well choreographed, but it lacked a strong central hook. I believe it required more. There might have been additional comments, in my opinion, to kind of build the covet into. There are other things as well, like when I was talking to my friend in the parking lot about why they didn't do this, like this thing right here is the quintessential pinnacle of the genre as well as the of COVID. I don't get why they didn't do more with the potential stuff here, or even just kind of if you were to sit down and brainstorm making a slasher film during COVID quarantine with just me and you. These things merge incredibly nicely, and yet they weren't done. There are many other things like that. I think we could have thought of 20 more amusing and clever things you could have done, and they simply failed to accomplish it, which is irritating because you watch a movie and think, yeah, I like that one, but you can immediately picture a better one. So I liked what I did get, but I was disappointed by what I got at the same time. In the end, should I advise you to watch the movie, Sick? Yes, and strongly. Sick is a fun and light movie. Do not exceed an hour and a half, and you will raise your adrenaline a lot. Yes, there are some cons, and each movie has its own cons. Nothing is perfect in this life. Sick will entertain you a lot, and I recommend you watch it with your spouse or husband, because watching the movie en masse will make it fun. If you get here, it means you like the video, and I hope you subscribe to the channel. Let us know in the comments if you saw the movie, what do you think, and how much is your rating for the movie out of 10. My rate is 7 out of 10. Peace.